All right, let's talk about truth and lies and what you can and can't say. I hope this is educational for people, and I think it will be. I'm going to talk again about Alison Russo's campaign and the actions of her campaign manager. What should our expectations be for these people in these roles? Restraint, maturity, basic human decency, professionalism. Yes? So background here, last summer I made 2 Facebook posts about Alison Russo in June and July. I'm pretty sure that first one was right after she'd asked the county party chairman not to appoint me to our central committee, a vacancy in my neighborhood, not hers. And if her gripe with me was legitimate, it would be perfectly legitimate in my eyes to make that request of the chairman. But her problem with me was of her own creation. It is not legitimate, and her attempt to erase me from this political community is gross. So anyway, my first post about her, I think, was right after she did that in early June last summer. And also, she had just stepped down from her position as minority caucus leader in the Ohio House. So my post was really well received. It was very nice. People made a lot of comments and engaged with it and messaged me and were just very kind. So I was relieved because I didn't really know what people would do. I had not spoken about it publicly yet. I had communicated with a couple of groups in more limited form, but I had not spoken publicly. So I had an EEOC charge against the House, against Alison Russo, that I'd filed over a year before that at that point. So I had been quiet for that reason, to let that play out. And I had been quiet through several very important elections, not wanting to create even the hint of scandal around Democrats. Let me just pat myself on the back for that there. Okay, so fast forward about a month and a half later, and the second post, I think it was just 2, it might have been 3, but the second post I made about Alison was at the end of July last summer, when there was escalating chatter about Alison as a statewide candidate. And on that one, Alison's campaign consultant, campaign manager, who I talked about in my last video, entered the chat. And she said nasty things. She argued with me and my friends, our friends. She and I were friends. I think I called her that night or the next day, and she did not answer. Because I saw these remarks and I thought, good God, she is unconstrained by concern for the truth and knowledge of the laws. And I'm going to need to inform her and enforce some boundaries here. So, when you come out here in these streets, be prepared, be armed with knowledge. So I ultimately sent her campaign manager a letter asking her to retract 6 specific false things. And then she did call me, and we talked for an hour. So I always liked this woman, I thought we kind of had matching chips on our shoulders, and if you were going to be in a bar fight, you want her with you. And maybe we'll be friends again someday, but not right now. And I still feel a little bit protective of her. Maybe that's patronizing of me, but that's how I feel. She's a grown-ass woman, but she's much younger than me. And she's been put in a very bad position by her client. And I want to stay focused here. This is about Alison Russo. This is about the choices of Alison Russo. And the buck stops with the candidate, Alison Russo. So what did we talk about for an hour, me and Alison's campaign manager? Well, it seems clear to me now that she wanted me to say she didn't actually have to retract anything and that I wasn't going to do anything about it if she didn't. It's like she wanted to give me some kind of private assurances, but not all the way. And she wanted me to assure her that I wouldn't take any further action. That was my takeaway from our conversation. But I can't think of any other reason why she stayed on the phone with me for so long. I had decided early on in the call, I'll let her talk as long as she wants. I was taking notes and just seeing what she would say. And it was an hour of deflection and reframing and pressure. and not so much engagement with the substance of my request. So some highlights. First, reframing. She kept trying to say, we just have different lived experiences. No. Her saying I went, quote, on strike and, quote, refused to work and asked the House to illegally delete records, false records. Those are not different lived experiences. Those are not vibes. Those are assertions of fact. Second, reversal. She was seeming to be trying to convince me that I was bullying her. This is a very common move when someone doesn't want to take responsibility, of course. They try to make enforcement of boundaries look like aggression. Third, the wear down. She kept saying she just wanted this to go away. She kept saying it like, what did she say? Like, it wasn't worth it. Am I really gonna, follow through on this? Just trying to get me to stop. Asking her to stop saying false things about me. So her goal did not appear to be fixing the problem. It seemed to be getting me to drop it. At some point, it had gotten so repetitive, I told her something like, yeah, I know you're trying to make me feel beat down here, but I'm not feeling that way. I'm feeling like you're a desperate. So it was fascinating. Like, this much younger woman, a friend of mine, thought she was going to have that impact on me. She wasn't totally wrong about her impact. She was just 80% wrong. So over and over, she said the same thing. She would not retract. And over, I said the same thing. You can have any opinion you want. You can dislike me. You can criticize me. That's your right. But you cannot make false assertions of fact about me. She at one point said, Facebook has made clear you can say whatever you want. And I corrected her that Facebook terms of service are not the law. So, she said nice things too. She said I was brilliant. She said she looked up to me. She said my Facebook posts had turned crazy. And I was like, which one? Which ones? I wrote them, so I don't think that. So she finally looked at my Facebook and she said, well, this one right here, I couldn't agree more, 100%. And I'm like, yeah, I think of us as aligned that way. I don't know what it was about, but the gaslighting continued in this phone call. And I finally was just like, you don't need to work in compliments here. Let's just keep talking about this. She said some things where I thought, oh my gosh, did Allison have her desk speakerphone on during our meetings? Because she said some of the identical things that Allison said to me, including, Sarah, what choice did she have? And Sarah, she kept saying my name in this exasperated way. Sarah, you wanted her to spend political capital on this when she was supposed to be doing redistricting. Never mind that. People were taking vacations and we were not even in the throes of round 17 or whatever of redistricting. But she was saying those things, and those were things that Allison said to me exactly. So I thought that was interesting. I mean, she was basically admitting exactly what I'd been saying all along. So I felt validated. Again, she said, Sarah, what choice did she have? Meaning, what choice did Allison have but to throw you under the bus? Kind of wild. So at the end of that call, Allison's campaign manager did not, and has not, retracted the statements, and she did not publicly apologize, although she did express regret a number of times on the phone with me. And here's what she did do. She went to the Facebook post, changed her comments to add that it is her understanding, it is my understanding that these are the things that happened. Now that is not sufficient for my purposes, but it is progress and does show some consciousness of possible wrongdoing on her part, or recognition she needed to correct something. So, whether I take further action is my business, but I satisfied one of my goals, which was to inform her about what she can and cannot say and put them on notice about my ability to enforce my boundaries and my rights. I don't think I should have to remind people that you should not and cannot lie without consequences, but we are living in strange times, and I will remind them when necessary. Lying is corrosive. It hurts people. Allison should not be lying to her campaign manager or to mutual friends of ours, harming my reputation. And here's something I want to be very, very clear about. Standing up for yourself when someone spreads falsehoods about you is not bullying. Asking for retraction is not harassment. It's a boundary. So, my goodness, I have really not even scratched the surface about that phone call, and maybe I'll revisit it later. And sometime soon, I'll tell you about my warnings to Allison not to lie about me and her response. See you soon.